guys, so a few days ago, the Prime Minister of UK, which is Keir Starmer, sent out a news that sent shockwaves across the entire UK and if not the entire world, saying that the NHS was going to be abolished. Now, many of you all reached out to me about questions related to how this might impact you as somebody who's already working in the NHS or who might be considering to move to the UK as a healthcare professional. And in today's video, I will be answering all of these questions and tell you what is the impact going to be on you as an internationally trained medical healthcare professional. But before we move ahead, my name is Nikita and I make videos about living in the UK, working as a healthcare professional, landing those roles and clearing those interviews to start your dream life in the UK if that is something that you want for yourself. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, now's your time to do so. But you can also drop me a follow on my Instagram handle, which is Physiotherapy in UK, where we go over all of the details on a day-to-day basis and I put out some really informative content for you guys. So let's get into the details. I've got my handy laptop ready and I will be sharing the link of all of the resources or the different articles I pull up on the screen down in the description box below so you can go and have a read yourselves. Let's break it down in today's video and understand what really is going to be happening. So firstly, let's understand about what is the NHS and why is it being scrapped. So the NHS England is a non-departmental body for the DHSC, which is the Department of Health and Social Care in the UK, which leads the National Health Services in England. Now, this was created in 2012 by the government at that point of time, and it basically oversees the budget, planning, and day-to-day operation within the NHS trusts in England. Now, what is again important to understand is that the NHS England is an administrative body which manages how health services in the country are run. It is primarily made up of managers and officials and not of doctors providing care in hospitals. So at this point, let's just understand what the NHS England does as an organization, sort of at the top. So the government provides it with money and tells it what the priorities are for the healthcare service. For example, to cut waiting times or improve cancer survival rates. It is then the NHS England's role, which is this organization, to funnel this money into different parts of the health service and to work out how to use the resources to bring about the change that the government wants to see. Now, in 2012, the NHS England was given more independence by the government, like we just said. And they said doing so would prevent politicians from interfering with too much with frontline services. So it just meant to have the NHS England more independent and slightly away from the political limelight and what the politicians have to say. The Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, believes that the overhauling management structures will put the NHS back into democratic control and free up money for frontline services. So now that we've tackled that, let's just see about what the funding looks like within the NHS. So as you can see on your screens right there, what it does say is at the minute, Labour is scrapping NHS England, which distributes about 90% of the government health funding within the country. And as you can see, there right on top is the Department of Health and Social Care, which then filters down to NHS England. And then it sort of goes on to local integrated care boards, which is your NHS trust in different parts of the country in England. And then you have the service providers, which is your primary care, that is your GP, dentist, pharmacies, hospitals, mental health services, and community NHS trust, which is where, again, 90% of that sort of spending goes through. So I hope that's made a little bit more sense in the fact that this is the NHS England as an organization and not the NHS services in terms of providing care at the minute. It's more about the people who are making decisions about how the money needs to be spent, what is meant to be done within healthcare for NHS England. So now that we've understood all of that, let's just understand why is this happening and what potentially are some of the changes that are going to take place as a result of this. So they've said in this article that it was obviously a major shake-up of the healthcare services, where Keir Starmer said that the non-departmental public body will be brought under the Department of Health and Social Care. He criticised that there was too much duplication going on between the Department of Health and Social Care and the NHS England services. Now, what it further goes on to say is that if we strip that out, what we are doing today, then it allows us to free up the money and put it where it needs to be, which is in the front line. Now, just to clarify here, the front line basically includes all the clinical staff who are working as a part of the NHS England. So say for example, if you are a doctor, a nurse, a physiotherapist, occupational therapist, radiographer, a speech and language therapist, dietitian, etc., you are all a part of the front line. And as a part of this sort of chat or this sort of progress in terms of making the NHS England a part of the Department of Health and Social Care, as you can see, it's actually trying to get more frontline workers. So if you are already working in the NHS, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that this is not going to affect any of us at the minute. What it then goes on to say is that the PM said any savings would go to doctors, nurses, and patient services and cut the red tape to speed up improvements in healthcare amid frustrations about the pace of change. So, like I said, it is hoping that all of the money that we save right here is going into directed or directly into the frontline services. Now, just to give a little bit context about what this really means, is because the NHS England, like I said, is a sort of management group at the minute where obviously they make decisions about what or where the allocated money that the government gives is going to go in order to tackle the priorities that the government has set for healthcare. Now, this includes a lot of the band 7s, band 8s, band 9s who are making management level decisions. And what the government is planning to do is it's planning to cut that sort of management positions that are being held within these trusts, so that all of that funding is now redirected to frontline healthcare services such as clinicians who are working with patients day in and day out, in the hope that it will bring down waiting times, improve access to healthcare, but also make sure that the government is taking a more preventive role in healthcare rather than just treating the medical conditions that come up. Now, again, we understand that the process of changing this entire organization and getting it under the Department of Health and Social Care is going to be a long-winded process, and there are going to be many jobs lost as a part of this. So let's just see what the article has to say about that. So the health secretary told the MPs that he is hoping that the changes will be complete in the next 2 years. And he confirmed that he is aiming to reduce the NHS England's overall headcount by 50%, meaning that thousands will lose their job. The size of NHS England right now is about 15,300 staff, and the Department of Health and Social Care is about 3,300, and across both the departments they are looking to reduce staff by 50%. Now, again, as somebody who is working in the NHS, this can seem really scary. But they've also gone on to say that, this, like I explained to you, is more from the NHS management level staff. So in terms of how this news impacts you, is firstly, if you are somebody already working in the NHS, but you are on a clinical role, say for example, like I said, doctors, nurses, physios, etc., then your job should be fairly protected. Unless you are in a band 8, band 9 management level working for the NHS England, that's when your job roles might be under that sort of line of fire. But again, be rest assured that this will be communicated to you. However, for most of us, if we are in clinical roles where we face patients day in and day out, these sort of changes should not impact us, and that is my understanding. So again, do not quote me for this. But again, thinking about the impact of how this might affect people who are planning to come to the UK, this might be a bit of a positive change for me personally, because what this is saying is that they are going to try to redirect all of the funds that they've saved. So over the £100 million that they are saving from this change in the next 2 years, they're going to redirect all of that money to having more GPs, more frontline healthcare workers. So that just means that at some point or the other, they're going to boost up and amp up that recruitment. And that just means more opportunity is going to be available for obviously people in the UK who are medically trained. So whether that is physios, OTs, speech and language therapists, dietitians, radiographers, etc., who are in the UK, they obviously will have more opportunities and jobs. But that also inevitably means that if they are not able to meet those vacancy numbers, which we have seen in the past, then those job opportunities will also be available to internationally trained medical healthcare professionals, provided you have your license to practice in the UK. Now, I hope this all makes sense, but again, if it doesn't, do let me know in the comments below. But that's it from today's video, guys. I hope you found it informative and it has solved a lot many questions that you might have had. Take care. Bye.